Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who've joined today. I welcome you all to Homeopathy Musings. Today is going to be the first episode of our series Muse with the Masters, a homeopathic musings initiative to get inspired, interact, and ask anything to your master. And today we have our master, Dr. Ajit Kulkarni, sir, with us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. And I welcome you back to Homeopathy Musings. And we are glad you could make it for today's session. And we look forward to having a lot of queries and doubts solved by you. Before we move on, just a few announcements to make. The episode 2 of News with Masters is going to be on the 22nd of July with Dr. Mahesh Gandhi, sir, and he's going to be discussing about the chakras, his latest book on chakras. Do join us. This session is also free, and you can register for this as well. We have animal series that we've started this year in January, and we are going to be covering the 8 different groups of the animal kingdom. This month, we'll be talking about mammals in depth, and its live session is going to be on the 29th of July. You can register for the same. We have the matridonal remedies starting soon, which is an 8 session course, which will be taken by Dr. Ghanshyam Kalatia, sir. We have Dr. Dinesh Chauhan, sir, who is going to be coming on the 16th of August for a 2-hour session on autoimmune disorders. We have Dr. Adil Chintanawala, sir, who will be teaching us the homeopathic approach in cardiovascular diseases and it's with case management. So I hope everyone is excited. I have just a few wanting to brief you through a few basic hygiene factors. So I suggest you all to keep your lines mute while sir is speaking or explaining anything. In case you have any queries, difficulties, doubts, questions, you can always write us on the chat box and we'll address it at the end or whenever sir has done finishing his explanation. And if you want to speak, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. Do not scribble on the screen. Make sure you make notes and share your experiences and enjoy. In case of any queries or difficulties, feel free to contact us. I'll stop sharing and I'll hand over to sir. And sir, you can just begin from here. Yes, sir.
Yes, welcome you. Good evening. And we have a very important question and answer series. Whenever I give seminars in any part of the world, this is at least for 2 to 3 hours every time an interaction. And it helps a lot in understanding the philosophy, the complex philosophy of homeopathy, the follow-up, the approach, the remedy selection, and everything. So I always give importance to this direct interaction with the students. There are few questions which have come up. I will ask the organizer to allow me to share the screen.
Yes, sir, you can go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah. So we have the first question that is coming from Dr. Uma Sheshadri. She has 4 cases to discuss and to ask the questions. These questions are known to our people, or I have to read them out.
I'll read it for you, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Do I need to read? Can I
No,
start?
I will go ahead.
Okay,
Yes.
sir. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So Dr. Uma has a case of a lady, 77 years, a diagnosed case of cancer of the pharynx, and she has hoarseness of the voice. And cancer of pharynx also causes hoarseness, not only the cancer of the larynx. She was treated with homeopathic remedies, temporary relief, recurrence, hospital visit, diagnosis, then chemotherapy and radiation. then surgery, then 6 7 years now this is all going on, or why is it still hoarse and rough? The question is whether this is a sign of remission. Though she continues with allopathic treatment, wants to know if homeopathy can bring back her voice. Okay, so this is the question. The first thing, the concept of remission and exacerbation need a consideration. See, exacerbation means a acute flare-up of the condition. One has chronic bronchial asthma, and now in the last few hours, patient has acute flare-up, that could episode of the bronchial asthma. So patient has more breathlessness than usual, coughing, restlessness, can't lie down, sweating, suffocation, oxygen depletion. So this acute totality which supervenes in the course of an illness is what we see defined as exacerbation. So the activity index of the disease process is now much gone to the high pitch. Exactly opposite is the state when the chronic illness goes into a remission phase. This is a phase of silence. This is a phase of inactivity, passivity. So the disease process, instead of going into a progressive index, goes into a phase of remission, where the disease process becomes passive, not active. This is very important in our follow-up of a case, because disease is progressive, disease is evolutionary, disease causes changes, more derangement of the vital force in the language of Hanuman. So this deviant miasmatic energy literally causes so many changes at the body level, at the mind level. And you know what is exactly the disease which constrains you, which shrinks you. It shrinks you bodily, it shrinks you mentally. Your capacities are becoming progressively deteriorating. So it is in this way the process of a disease causes so many changes. So remission in a chronic case is a very important aspect of any treatment. Take for example, there is a case of leukemia, maybe any kind of the leukemia, maybe active leukemia, and then you will find that usually a very high intensity, rapidly progressing leukemia. Please
Please
listen to me.
mute yourself.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So you will find that in case of leukemia, if it doesn't become chronic, the patient will die. The patient will die provided there is no remission. It doesn't go into chronicity. It doesn't go into passive. So you have to find out who is making the voice. And you have to close the voice. Difficult. Okay, I think better I will continue with a loud voice. Okay. So remission.
hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Now it is very
Yes.
good. Now I will repeat what I am telling. In a case of leukemia, active, very rapidly progressing leukemia, if it doesn't go into chronicity, if it doesn't go into remission, patient will be killed. So one should pray God that it should go into chronicity. If the patient of leukemia goes into chronicity, then chances of recovery, chances of fighting, chances of destruction are much less because the process of a disease becomes passive. This silent phase where there is no active disease process is called as a remission. For example, there is a case of rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune disorder. You begin with a constitutional remedy like Kali carbonicum, causticum, silica, lycopodium, whatever may be. Patient feels better, 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 and then there is a remission. No exacerbation, no acute spells, no attacks of rheumatoid, and the patient really enjoys the silent phase of a disorder. The more chronic, prolonged remission phase being induced by homeopathy, it means that it is much, much better from the immunological standpoint. And you can also infer that homeopathic therapy is helping the case out. So remission is a word which should be used from that angle. In this UC question, this remission word which is used is not correct. This is basically because we don't know whether this is a remission. Because in the remission definition, once cancer has occurred and then there is no recurrence of cancer, doesn't mean remission. In remission, there must be acute spells, acute exacerbation. The disease is characterized by them, and now there is a remission. You know, for example, leukemia-like disease, there could be exacerbations of it. Rheumatoid arthritis, many immunologically autoimmune disorders, they also have exacerbative phases as well as remission phases. Now, in this case, what you get is a hoarseness chronic after chemotherapy and after radiotherapy. Now, after radiotherapy, especially if the vocal cord is affected, pharynx is affected, the function of the vocal cord is hampered because the radiotherapy causes destruction of the cells, of the organs, of the tissues. So the cluster of the cells which are helpful to produce the voice, which is unique to an individual, it becomes chronically hoarse. Chances of total hoarseness being wiped out now with even homeopathy are not there in this case. So I think we have to understand the limitation of homeopathy in this case, where total recovery of hoarseness is not possible if radiotherapy has destroyed the vocal cord. However, we will not take this issue as something totally pessimistic. We are not going to help the case out. It is better to keep an optimistic view. Let us try our best in our own way of homeopathy. And it is here that our constitutional remedy, our anti-miasmatic treatment, our total understanding of the totality, mind-body connection, genetic predisposition, etc., etc., and we will find a wonderful, appropriate remedy for the patient, which may help, you see, remove the hoarseness. So we have to see in which way we help the patient as a treatment. So this is something which we have to see. So I have given you two rubrics here, and I want to give you some understanding how we can approach on the basis of these two rubrics our remedies. Now you see, sister scan has also pharynx cancer. Sister scan is a cancerous remedy like calcinosinum, like serenum, like DNA, like Kali remedies, like you will find Aram remedies, arsenicum in one way or the other, I mean in cation or in anion. In the same way, sister scan is a remedy of pharynx cancer, apart from its action over lymph nodes. Sister scan is a remedy where you will find a readily infiltration into the surrounding lymph nodes. This is a very important sign, concomitant symptom of sister scan. It's a glandular cancer. Therefore, sister scan is mostly useful in Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and many other glandular variety of cancer. Then our arsenic, I have already spoken with you about arsenic, arsenic album, arsenic iodum, arsenicum, sulfum rubrum, sulfum flavum, and many other arsenic where you can attach these to any other cation like natrum arsenicosum, calcarea arsenicosum. Let us take, for example, calcarea arsenicosum. It has a chief action over kidneys. So you will find that the patient is likely to suffer from kidney mass of malignant type. Just I am giving you how we can approach the case. Then alumina has a cancer related to gastrointestinal tract and also to the brain. Alumina has a lot of dyspepsia, a lot of GIT complaints, and also it affects the colon. It has not only the so-called paralysis and you will find motility, peristalsis being affected, although the stools are soft. It is also a remedy of cancer, both alumine and alumina. Now, chronic hoarseness because of chemotherapy, because of radiotherapy, the vocal cord has become paralytic. So there is a paralysis, there is a paralytic, and now the muscles are not working because the vocal cord muscles, the muscles of the jaws, and I think the entire mouth and face is involved along with the brain in our talking. So naturally with the paralysis, if you have the hoarseness, think of alumina. Then benzoicum acidum. Benzoicum is a carbon one. So now this is a very important remedy in cancer where you are attaching one acid with one carbon and both are cancerous. In benzoic acidum, there are n number of varieties of cancers. And I think this is a very important remedy like arsenicosum in many types of the cancers. Here the theme is that destruction. The theme is decomposition. The theme is ulceration. The theme is suppuration. So open cancer, fistula, not getting cured. Healing is not there. Unrepaired disease processes. This is like kali iodum, benzoicum acidum. Now, because of the destruction being caused by radiotherapy and chemotherapy, this remedy will come up. Then comes clotalosar, a remedy where inflammation is the very basis, very severe inflammation. And then you see the development of cancer. This also a very strong feature of venoms like the ferrums, especially ferrum phosphoricum. What is very unique to ferrum phos? There is inflammation in this organ, in that organ, which continues for years together. And then patient develop some problem of cancer somewhere, mostly blood cancer. The inflammation affects the blood, and blood is an affinity in ferrum. So you have ferrum picricum in throat cancer. You see how the ferrum comes up. My approach in teaching is to put before you the connections in the practice. The connections based on toxicology, based on cation-anion relationship, based on our clinical experience in homeopathy. So we have hydrastis, a very wonderful tissue remedy for rejuvenating, for immunomodulation, stimulation, and to cause more appetite, digestion, assimilation, absorption. So it's a very unique remedy. And I think in throat cancer, because hydrastis has a very specific action on the throat also, apart from the GIT. Then calicloricum. Calicloricum basis of pharynx cancer is related to catarrhal affection. So there is a chronic catarrh in the throat, like Kali muriaticum. Then phosphoricum, you know very well, phos and arsenicum and cancer go together. The radioactivity. Phosphorus is regarded as a radioactive substance, like a radium group in homeopathy, like X-ray, like strontium Ka. Then we have phytolacca, radium brome, sulfur, thuja, and vyathia. Vyathia is a very special action over throat, mostly related to some piece being insulted, and there is a constant feeling of sticking, what you see in acid nitricum. So now why I'm telling you, because I want you to understand how a remedy represents to you through many integrity phenomenon of cation anion relationship, of symptomatology, of clinical entities, of pathologies which get developed. Let us now study the speech voice hoarseness chronic. Now this is the rubric. You cannot get a rubric, no? Hoarseness incurable. Is it possible? No, because this is a rubric which is impossible, you see, because this is a stage which we have to understand. Repertory cannot give it. So chronic hoarseness, which has deepened due to many reasons. In causticum, you will get again paralysis, like alumina. In phosphorus, you will get destruction. In carbovegetabilis, what is important? The ability of an organ to function is impaired. I want to cough, but I have no power to cough. It is like sternum metallicum, no? The lungs have become so weak that breathlessness is there. I cannot breathe. I cannot cough because I cannot walk for few, you see, minutes, because then there is a shortness of breath, because sternum met literally causes debility of the function of the lungs. So carbovegetability is for this purpose. What is the purpose of the carboveg in chronic hoarseness? This is again a remedy of antidoting both radiotherapy as well as chemotherapy. So in this case of Uma, where the patient is old age, again old age is a very important, you see, indication for carbon remedies. And you know, carbon remedies are between life and death. They have strong pathologies standing at the brink of the death. So very strong advanced pathologies which tell upon the immunity of a person. So in such a case, chronic case, incurable case, whether we don't know whether hoarseness will be improved, my first choice will be carbovegetabilis, because it will deal with causes as well as the process of natural type of cancer. Then comes, you will find manganum, that is manganum aceticum. Manganum aceticum is a very deeper acting chronic, but slowly destroying the condition. It is like plumbum metallicum, stannum metallicum, causticum, where gradually deepening pathology is present. Cancer is not very strong and puts the patient at the brink of the death very soon. It is a slowly developing cancer. And you will find that in a 77-year lady, which Uma is describing, remember, cancer in an old age usually spreads gradually in comparison to the cancer in young age. This is basically because, you know, the food of the cancer cells is what you eat, and your whole body is the food of the cancer cells. So the metabolic activity of the cell division is very strong in a young age. And we have seen in our first and second session of the oncology that the very basis of cancer is multi-division of the cells. And this is the whyness of cancer. So we can discuss all these issues in a deeper way. Now, hoarseness chronic drosera. This is a very important remedy for hoarseness with hoarse cough more. This is my pet remedy when the child has hoarseness with cough, which gets worse by lying down. And there is a spasmodic cough, which may end in vomiting, like spongia tosta. Comparatively, you will find a very important remedy, vomiting after coughing, is Coccus cacti, but it has less hoarseness. So if I want to answer Uma's question about hoarseness, you can try for, in this case, three remedies. First, Drosera, second, phosphorus, and the third one is carbo vegetabilis. Okay. So this is the answer of the first question. Now I want to answer case number 2. The lady who is having HER2 cancer, left breast, 82 years of age. She has gone 5 years before chemotherapy and radiation. And as a residue of the treatment, she has developed severe neurological problems. We have dealt with this issue of complications of chemotherapy, corticotherapy, and radiotherapy, and even the newly introduced biological remedies in mainstream medicine. So we have a host of remedies, what I have written in my volume 3, where cancer is a longest article of 100 pages. I will read it out. HER2 breast cancer. These types of cancers tend to spread faster than other types, but are more likely to respond to treatment, also to chemotherapy. HER2 positive breast cancers are more aggressive than other types of the breast cancer. But because this is a case of old age and there is a response of treatment, I think she has gone into a kind of a remission phase. So there is no recurrence of the cancer, but residual effects because of chemotherapy. And it is a very well-known thing that chemotherapy causes neuropathic changes. So HER2 positive breast cancer are usually psychosyphilitic in miasmatic assessment. And let us study now neuropathy due to chemotherapy, what is called as a CIPN. Chemotherapy damages the nerves. The condition is called CIPN. Symptoms can be severe and may affect a person's quality of life. About half of the population suffers from CIPN. How much? About half of. So 50% people who take chemotherapy suffer from neuropathy. Now, apart from homeopathy, remember vitamin E, calcium, magnesium, glutathione, which is more available through antioxidants. B1, B6, and B12 are very important concomitant auxiliary therapies with homeopathic therapy. Don't believe that homeopathy alone will help. If these vitamins also are deficient, they are very much affected due to chemotherapy. Don't say no to them. I'm a very staunch, strict, rigid homeopath. It is okay. You can be. But giving vitamin is not causing any damage to your homeopathic remedy. Main homeopathic remedy as far as the neuropathy is concerned, this is from my own clinical experience, is first arsenicum. There is a very, very promising remedy that is carbonium sulfuratum. I told you about this remedy. I call this remedy as a very important basic remedy like DNA. This is basically because carbon and sulfur, they are for organic and inorganic metabolic processes in our life. So basic. Sulfur, who has become now carbonized. who has become more pathological, who has become more miasmatic, who has become more nervy with neuropathic changes. This is carbonium sulfuratum. So, what are the symptoms commonly of the neuropathy? Take, for example, the fingers are affected. There is a sensation of prickling, there is a sensation of numbness, there is a sensation of burning. Patient becomes restless. These are very common symptoms also of the toes. And sulfur in the proving covers all these symptoms together. I just want to attach carbon because this is something telling upon the nerves. This is related to damage. So related to destruction. So there is a pathology. There is a destruction. There is a nerve damage. There is a nerve sheath damage. The transmission of the energy traveling through the nerves is affected. This is all related to the carbonium sulfuratum. You know, what is important in carbonium sulfuratum is the sense organs are affected, and one after the other, there is a progressive loss of the sense organs. First, blindness, then hearing is affected, then nasal, you see, smell has disappeared, then impotency has developed, then the skin at many places has become anesthetic. This is carbonium sulfuratum. As if the person loses the functioning of one after the other very important sense organs. This is exactly what you see in chemotherapy induced neuropathies. So the first remedy to be thought of in such a case is carbonium sulfuratum. Then comes our potassium group. Out of the potassium group, I have very good experience with causticum and kali phosphoricum. Kali phosphoricum is my very favorite remedy. You can call it as a standby remedy too, where I frequently give it in all cases of chemotherapy. When the chemotherapy begins, my prescription is Kaliphosphoricum 6 daily 3 times for days together. If the patient is consuming for 2 months, 3 months with a gap, I continue Kaliphos for a very long time daily. Kaliphos is also for general fatigue and debility, which is caused by chemotherapy. Even I have very good results with radiotherapy effects with Kaliphosphoricum. Kaliphosphoricum is a remedy of nervine type. Nervine means that which stimulates the nerves. It helps regenerate the neurons. And hence, it is a very important remedy of nerves. Then we have phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid represents the debilitated side of the acids, where a person loses the go. You know, go of life is something which is very important to define the will and continuation of the will. No? Every cell in our body is just like a will. Every cell has an intelligence, every cell has its own independent existence, and every cell is responsible as far as her work is concerned. So naturally, this particular cell, because of chemotherapy, becomes very weak. It loses the go. It cannot go forward, no, like cilia, like sperms. So this action of phosphoricum acidum is to motivate the system. So this is a very good immunostimulant like phosphoricum in homeopathy. Then phosphorus and phosphoricum acidum are very closely related to each other. Many times I always say that phosphoricum may enter into phosphoricum acidum in evolution. When the system has gone from tubercular and psychotic miasm to the syphilitic miasm, where there is the indifference, there is no go, there is no will, and the patient has become totally apathetic. So the cells in the body after chemotherapy have become apathetic. This is the idea in phosphoricum acidum. In phosphorus, this is also a very important remedy acting over the nerves. It is said that no remedy acts so rapidly and so deeply over nerves. We have n number of remedies acting on the nerves, no? But phosphorus, it is said that ranks high. Then picricum acidum. You know, picricum acidum has an action over nerves and bone marrow. In many of these cases, bone marrow has a very big role to play in cancer. You know, many of the cancers are related to something existential. And bone marrow is an existential organ in our body that speaks our existence, our identity, our DNA. And bone marrow is also related to reticuloendothelial system, which is affected in many types of cancer. In picricum acidum, you will find when there is a damage to the nerves, when there is a tumor in the brain, in the spinal cord, and there is a radiotherapy, the chemotherapy, and there is a neuropathy consequence. Think of this remedy. Many times you will find picricum acidum and ferrum picricum are related to prostate cancer, especially ferrum picricum is listed as one of the remedies for 3 marks for prostate cancer. And if there is a, you see chemotherapy being given, many hormonal treatment is given, because now you see in many of these cancer, the testes are removed and the concept is to now cause more feminine hormones to be introduced so that there is no chance for the cancer cells to develop. So here you will find ferrum picricum, picricum acidum have a big role to play in chemotherapy. Then comes oxalic acid. Oxalic acid, unfortunately, has been studied only from the standpoint of thinking of complaints, aggravation, and some pains and heart, angina pectoris, and this one. But you know, Bithulkas long back in one of his books presented a very good case of multiple sclerosis being treated with oxalic acid. This is very important that oxalic acid should be understood from the pathogenetic action of this remedy over nerves. So you can think of this remedy for this particular purpose. Then sickle core, sickle ergot is a very important contribution in oncology from homeopathy, like arsenicum album. So you have open cancers, gangrene, blackishness. And you know, in ergot poisoning, you also get tingling and numbness of the fingertips and toes. This is exactly what you see in neuropathy. Then spider remedies, all spider remedies act over the nose. It is said that the structure of the spider, its tentacles, uniquely represent the network of the nerves. And they have a very special action over the nerves. Hence, all spider remedies must be thought of in neuropathy. The best one you will find is, you see, Tarantula hispanica. And then we have Theridion, we have Lactrodectus mactans. If you read Lactrodectus mactans, you will find it can become a very important remedy in neuropathy. And then Ginkam salts, all Ginkam remedies, especially Ginkam mate, Ginkam phosphoricum, Ginkam arsenicosum, and you see Ginkam sulfuratum. They are very important in cases of neuropathy. In Ginkam sulfuricum, maybe the cancer is related to the brain, being treated with chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and patient has huge side effects of neuropathy. In sulfuricum, you get burning, you get tingling, you get prickling, and all these symptoms are worse in bed. What is sulfur? Sulfur is in bed warmth aggravation. You know this symptom very well. Pain in the legs is worse, itching is worse, symptoms are worse. So you must think of Ginkam sulfur atom instead of only thinking sulfur. Only thinking sulfur, think of carbonium sulfur. Only thinking of sulfur, think of zincum sulfur. Okay, so this is in short about the answer to this question. Then we have third case from Uma. Again, a very important remedy. Case 42-year, two small children diagnosed with HER2 breast cancer 4 years ago. Yes, chemo and radio. She continues allopathic medication and takes some infusion, which is likely to be chemotherapy at regular intervals. They are very painful infusions, and she feels fatigue after the infusion. Going to the hospital, visiting, paper, and all these things are really causing fatigue in her, anxiety in her. So, how we can help? Can we stop infusion? Whether you will find homeopathy can be of help. This is the question. I think this case needs a chronic constitutional and anti-miasmatic remedy. Now, there is a history of cancer in a mother. So in this case, if we want to stop again the infusion, which is most likely chemotherapy, then we must give, you see, carcinosinum as one of the remedies to begin with. Then our constitutional remedy. It seems that in this 42 years of case with 4 year this you see breast cancer, maybe it is dependent on hormones, or the infusion could be hormone also. We don't know. The details are not known to us. But however, this case is a very good case for homeopathy to continue the treatment and to see in the long run how homeopathy can be of help. So answer to this question is that we have to see in the chronic way whether we can stop the infusion. We need the details now, provided chemotherapy is given, which kind of the chemotherapy is given. In my article over cancer management of the chemotherapy, I have given types of chemotherapies, and we need tutopathic drugs being prepared of all these chemotherapeutic agents. So we can introduce this agent intermittently, almost weekly or every 15 days or every month according to the need, and we can see how we can progress. Now, there are some expressions we have to see. Infusion, side effects of infusion, then hospitalization, fatigue, weakness, and anxiety. So it is all together a frustrating experience over years. The patient is a young one, but this is a frustrating experience. So in order to help this mind at this level, we have to think of a very good remedy to boost up, that is phosphoricum acidum, which removes the fatigue, which motivates the patient, and which reduces really the weakness which develops out of all this procedure. You can add with acid phos, caliphosphoricum in biochemic Schussler tissue salt. So in such cases, you can at least help the patient to reduce the fatigue. If you really want to now reduce the infusion, you need all the investigations, you need management according to homeopathy, doses, repetition, potency selection, decimal scale, centesimal scale, then also LM scale, repetition, intermittent nosehood as intercurrent remedies being interpolated. All these concepts will come up provided we receive the totality in a case. And then we can have a strategy, what really we can do in this particular case. Very important in this case is you will find there are hopes in this case because 4 years have been passed. So she has already crossed 3 years. There is no recurrence, although she is consuming some remedies. So 5 year, you see scientific parameter that after 5 years, if there is no recurrence, we can declare that it is almost cured. So only 1 year has remained from that point of view, although it is not very strict because each case is different in oncology. So I will say that this is a good case to go ahead with homeopathy and to see whether homeopathy is helping the case out. Okay, then we have the next case. It is a 77-year-old person who is diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, what is called as a CLL. He was diagnosed 15 years ago. But now, very interesting of this case is WBC count is increasing every year. Now it is 23,000. There are no any other symptoms. Patient's quality of life is maintained. There is no active allopathic treatment going on. So is it possible now to reduce the count? It is possible, I think. With homeopathy, with a kind of classical homeopathy being applied to the case, it is possible. But we need some study of this case. Let us study now what is true about CLL. You see, usually it affects the adults above 55 years. So this sentence corresponds with our patient, although it may occur in young adults, but very rarely, never in children. So CLL is not the cup of tea of the children. Why? Only God knows. The 5-year survival rate is 75%. Okay. Patient has this 15 years time. So naturally now, you see, although the WBC count is increasing, it is difficult to say that only because of the count increase, the activity phase of CLA is very high. It is very difficult to infer this issue. Patient's quality of life is maintained, and I think that patient is showing the increase in WBC, but all other symptoms of the classical leukemia of active phase are absent in the case. So I think this is a case in a remission phase. But there is a warning signal that WBC count is progressively increasing. This is a tubercular miasmatic process. In tubercular miasm, remember, there is a progress, there is an erratic progress, there is an unpredictability in the presentation, in the evolution of a process of the cancer. So naturally, I will use first a remedy like tuberculinum bovinum candid or tuberculinum aviare to go ahead. Then I will take the totality in this case and I will treat it. It is usually incurable, but it is not very important. If the patient has gone into remission for 20 years, 25 years, 40 years, what is your problem? Almost the quality of life is more important than only the disease levels. Then one subtype B cell prolymphocytic leukemia, which is a rare one. This one is a aggressive form of the disease and usually doesn't enter into remission. And patient dies very soon, within few days to few months. Because your patient doesn't suffer from this subtype B is not applicable to the patient. I'm just giving you how we can have understanding of the clinical entity, clinical knowledge, and then we can understand homeopathically. Homeopathy is also a science which considers the process of a disease under a big name of totality. Don't say that all this knowledge is redundant, unnecessary. Don't do this mistake. Homeopathy is believing on two concepts: disease diagnosis and management, and person diagnosis and management. And disease and person are inseparable. So miasmatic assessment is, you see, dominant miasm is syphilis. But in your case, because old age and patient is 15 years, it is psychotubercular. Usually, it is syphilitic, but in this case, it is in this way The general understanding of the miasm and a very particular individualistic miasmatic assessment becomes different. Are you with me? Don't go by the statistics just like allopaths go. Homeopathy is more individualized therapy. So there is no biostatistics which will be just like black and white. This is the truth. Nothing is ultimate truth. The only ultimate truth is individualization. So you have this case as a psychotubercular. In this particular case now, apart from the tuberculinum as a remedy which I have suggested, I would like to treat this case from standpoint of chronic constitutional remedy and to see how the patient is progressing towards the healing path. He's 77 years of age, and I think what he needs more is a gentle treatment of immunostimulation. I usually avoid giving chemotherapy after 70 years of age because in original books on chemotherapy, it is not recommended after 70 years you should give chemotherapy. Although there are many cases which respond well to chemotherapy after 70 years also, but this is risky also. Okay, so this is about this question. Then there are questions about you see potency. Vicky Bell has asked few questions. And then we will go to your questions also. We have spent almost now 55 minutes and we have ample time now. Okay. Homeopaths who are in the training sessions sometimes give multiple doses of a remedy. Yes. If needed, they must be given. I understand that low doses, crude doses require frequent repetition. True. But sometimes I may have a very allergic sensitive skin and I want to just give a dose of sulfur 6C also. And I don't want to repeat. This is also possible. So potency and repetition are very individualized processes in homeopathy. And as a homeopath, I should be in favor of both of them. I should be in favor of repetition. I should also be in favor of no repetition because I am guided by the patient's data. I'm guided by individualization as a principle in homeopathy. I should not be guided by a principle that I will give you one dose and I will wait for this dose to act for months together. There will be dropouts also. So I think that unnecessary repetition is bad. And if the patient really needs repetition because you are not repeating, this is also bad. So this understanding you must have. Further, because I want to speak with you in a very clear-cut manner because I have spoken on this. I have also written a book of 70 pages over homeopathic posology, translated in some UC languages also. I think that many people are still guided by fifth edition of Organon of Medicine. And unfortunately, Kent, who influenced homeopathic professional for large and also today influencing, didn't read sixth edition because of Madam Hanima. Okay, I do not want to enter into all these stories. The story is that Hanuman advised frequent repetition in sixth edition, although it is with LM scale. But actually, when Rima Handley studied Hanuman's 15 years of practice, later years of Hanuman in Paris, she found Hanuman has repeated daily in many cases remedies like sulfur and varietal marble in 6C, in 12C. So we have to understand, we must know this. How many people have read the thesis of Rima Handley, later years of Hanuman? See, we have to be very open, provided you want to practice homeopathy. Homeopathy is like a open horizon. You are not sitting in a consulting chamber and looking at the sky. No? To look at the sky, you have to come out of your consulting room and to see the horizon of magnificence. Homeopathy is magnificent. Use. A very deep, broad vision is required in homeopathy. And I think rigidity has a little place in artistic prescribing, although I believe in science and I believe that homeopathy is a very good blend of science and art together. So, what constitutes giving it 200 frequently? Why we should not go for 200 frequently? You see now, 12C, 6C, 30C, more crude, the action will be released more at the pathological level. So we prefer more mother tinctures, decimal scale, and low potencies. Now, 200 potency is an in-between potency. If you try to see the centesimal scale, it goes to the mind at one pole and it goes to the pathological tissues at other pole. And if you have defined the vitality in a case, you can repeat, provided vitality is good. A young man had cancer, he digested, assimilated chemotherapy very well. He has some psychogenic issues which are also responsible for cancer. In such cases, if you want to treat pathology and the mind also, better you go to 200 potency. In such cases, you can repeat for a few days and then stop and see the reaction. I often repeat in many ways. I can repeat one dose and wait and watch. I can repeat 3 doses in one day and I can watch. I can give 5 days daily one dose of a corresponding remedy and wait and watch. I can repeat 3 times for 5 days or 15 days even and wait and watch. It all depends upon advanced pathology, vitality, age, organ which is affected, what is the status, what is the treatment which the patient has consumed in the past. So the very basis of posology is based upon 9 components, which I have thoroughly described in my book. So I make a totality of these 9 components together in a case coming before me. Then I have the thinking process of totalistic vision, what I should do now. And it is in this way, then I go by the fundamental concepts of posology. So how would I know do that? I will know this provided I study the case from fundamental concepts of posology. Then classical is one dose. Never. Classical doesn't mean one dose. This is a kind of a delusion. What do you want to say by one dose? I always make a joke. The patient was a child, chubby, perspiration on the scalp, you see dependent, crying, multiple fears, so you want to give a single dose of Leukemia. Okay, dentition was very good, patient progress very good, she went in the school and then she went in the badminton and she played very well. Everything she did very well. Why? She was given a single dose of Leukemia. How do you think this? So nature has no chance. Only our Kalkiraka has a chance. Kalkiraka, transformation. Totally transform one dose. How do you think? Okay. Then he became, you see, adult. He had marriage. He had 2 sons, you see. Very Kalkiraka sons he produced. How do you think? Due to Kalkiraka, single dose. He had then a very good service in Apple. You see, 5 lakh rupees per month, you see. Why? Kalkiraka during child. One dose, you see. Then he was old. He had pain in the legs due to osteoarthritis, pain in the hips, pain in the knees. His memory became very weak. He became dependent on people. And you know, parasitism is the very basis of Kalkiraka. So this patient who showed during first year of life Kalkiraka, again showing at 80 years of life Kalkiraka. How do you think? Thinking Then the other thing is that, you see, he had now last days on this planet and he was crying very badly, fear of death. Again, Kalkiraka, because under the rubric fear of death, there is Kalkiraka. So you gave Kalkiraka to him, and then now he died with Kalkiraka in his body. And then in the graveyard, you kept Kalkiraka with him. How do you think? Everything due to single. Is it possible? So many changes occur in the life. So many totality differs. So many layers are there. No? There is a mind layer, there is a physical layer, there is a separation, there is a old symptoms reappearing. How many changes occur? Change is the only constant fixed thing with the universe. So also with the disease. So also with an individual who suffers. So naturally, according to the changes, we have to go ahead. No? For let us take a very simple example. There is a case of disappointment in love and you become totally apathetic. You wanted to prescribe acid phospholicum. You are one of the distinguished personalities of world homeopathy. So you prescribe one dose of phosphoric acid. Apathy disappeared. Patient started laughing. And then he developed severe hatred feeling against the girl he wanted to kill. Apathy disappeared. He became, you see, emotional again. His emotions, which were quite blunted because of apathy and depression, came up. No, do you know they are coming up? This is a healing process. Now he says to you that I want to kill. Do you want to again continue with phosphoricum acid? Or you have to think of remedies like acid nitricum, like anacardium, like lachesis, venoms or not? So natural evolution of a disease process you have to accept in clinical practice. No? So all diseases can be cured with a single dose. And what is the remedy which is constitutional? It is throughout the life of a person helpful. That man had changed, you know. He was in favor of, you see, inordinate craving for sweets. And now after 20 years, he has developed aversion to sweets. He has changed. Do you want to use the same remedy now? Argentum nitricum, which you used 20 years before. It is not possible, you see. So you have to accept the change that occurs. And if the change has occurred, what is about your adaptability to the change as a homeopath, as a human being? This is also very important. No? There is a case where you will find there are a lot of moods. Uh, she has she has now a sensation, which is very important sensation, that she is separated from the world. And she is in the space and quite she is now caged and she wants to come down and she cannot come down. And literally she become helpless and crying. Do you want to give now ignition to her? Even though in the proving this symptom is not there. I treated this case with germanium metallicum with very good result. So her evolution came from ignition to germanium metallicum. So the issue of evolution is a part of life. So this question needs to be answered in a broad way at a length. This is a very important issue. So classically, human dose and weight are there literature and books covering this topic of dosing. Yes. You know, Vitulkas is currently also working over repetition of doses. I have been working over this project since almost 15 years. And I have been following with repetition, without repetition, with cross-control study, double-blind study, and I'm trying to infer something. And I'm trying to evolve a methodology when to repeat and when not to repeat, given the broadness of the fundamental concepts of posology. So I think the answer to this question is that when repetition is necessary, do repeat. When repetition is not necessary, don't repeat. This is the science. And this is the rational way of investigation also. Whether this case needs repetition or whether this case needs no repetition. Then comes Hanuman, you see. During Hanuman's time, obstacles to recovery were very less. Natural food was there, natural climate was there, air was good, food was good. Now, obstacles to recovery have increased a lot. Stressors have been there. Our life has denatured now in every respect. So, do you want to see that all these causes which are operating over human beings almost moment to moment, they will resist the action of a remedy? No. So, resistance to the potential action of the remedy, even though you are giving a good remedy, has increased a lot. So, you have to repeat more from that angle also. Of course, with caution, with vigilance. Okay. Then comes question number second. How can we determine if an intercurrent will be disruptive? Now, the word disruptive is used in the literature from causing trouble and stopping something from continuing, especially when there is suffering and pain in the patient. This is a very big subject. I wrote almost 15 pages over intercurrent prescribing in my chapter in, you see, harmony in totality. I think this is very important contribution from my side because I was working over this project of intercurrent. This is a book of second volume. It is a, you see, 900 pages book, now getting translated in many languages also. So intercurrent prescribing means when the indicated remedies fail. So this is a very fundamental condition for intercurrent. You cannot prescribe intercurrent because I want to prescribe today calcinosine to my patient. It is not so easy. There is a rationality. There is a science behind it. And I have given, you see, lecture over intercurrent prescribing in, you see, national and international platforms also. So when you are using intercurrent word, the first thing is that you are using homeopathic indicated remedies in a classical way with due repertorization, which you are refined study of the data processing, and still the patient is not responding. So there is a lack of reaction. And you know, lack of reaction is one of the best rubrics to give an intercurrent remedy. An intercurrent remedy doesn't mean only the nosode. It could be a sarcode. It could be any remedy as far as this group of reaction concerned. So you must know all these issues very well once. Yeah. Okay. So if you want, I can give you in short the intercurrent remedies and what are the indications. But then we will enter into another subject and we have not so much time. What I can do, I will finish the questions. I will also finish the questions which are online. And if the time permits, I will give you some ideas about indications of the intercurrent remedies. Okay. Then there is a case. There is a new patient who had been run over by a car. She survived and she was operated for fractures. 2 years ago, a car back over her and then went forward over her. So this is accident. Accident means you see, it is not a dynamic entity of the disease, it is a demiasmatic cause. But remember, although external environmental non-miasmatic cause is there, it causes miasmatic changes at the body and mind level. So this is very important to understand. Classically, I gave her arnica tenem for that shock and injury. But in classical, this potency is to wait for 2 months before repeating it, letting the picture get clearer. This concept of 2 months 10 is a very big dose. I must not repeat, and you call it as classical. This is not classical at all. In classical, you have to see the patient. If need be, repeat. If need not be, no repeat. Second thing, I have to wait for 2 months. Who wrote 2 months? What is 2 months? 60 days. And if you want to see old material medicals where the action of arnica is 60 days provided, this action is about proving symptoms. This duration of 60 days is about how long the proving continues. It is not that one dose will act for 60 days. So this interpretation is very wrong. Let us take Naxomica. It is written that it proving occurred for 30 days. Do you want to say that in acute case of influenza, of diarrhea, of constipation, you want to give one dose of Naxomica 1 ml and it will act for 30 days? So do you want to say that after 30 days he will have total cure of the constipation? Is it possible? No. You may need to repeat Naxomica in 200 potency, 1 ml potency in acute influenza case. Because influenza is characterized by acute energy, which nullifies the action of an indicated homeopathic remedy, Naxomica. So you need to repeat it more. So the results with repetition acute cases are much, much brighter than no repetition. Why? Because you are trying to understand that the action of a previous given dose is exhausted. And this is possible, no? Because of the tussle between deviant Saitan energy, devil energy of the disease, and angel energy of the host. This is a zagada, this is a struggle, this is a tussle, you see, wrestling. Sometimes in this wrestling, devil wins, sometimes angel wins. So repetition in acute is a very important idea. In this case of accident, you have to define the accident. What really happened to the system as a whole, mind and body? Now, you see, I gave Adnika 10 then repetition, but she has a lot of pain. Okay. I mean, after 2 years with surgery, she has now still a lot of pain. I told you, if you remember, when I explained to you anodynes in oncology, where I give you 6, 7 drugs like chloroformine, morphine, aconite, ferox, and others, where you will find if there is a daily pain, it is better to repeat daily. The results are better. This is my experience with repetition in painful conditions. This is the reason in very chronic, deep-seated rheumatic cases, daily pain, I repeat with good success. She cannot have pain medicines because she is a recovering alcoholic drug user. Will arnica be enough? If arnica is indicated, arnica will be enough. If arnica has surpassed now, and there is a totality at a different level, you have to give a different remedy. Arnica is not the only remedy for trauma. I have offered a trauma repertory long back. And when I started studying it with my guru, Dr. Tarkas, I found that this repertory contains 350 drugs indicated in this trauma and that trauma. How many remedies? 350. Why you insist only Arnica? This is the problem. The problem with the homeopath is that he is often fixed in drugs and becomes, you see, using some polycrest known remedies only, and his vision becomes narrow. Arnica chronic is difficult because there are so many changes that occur. No? It cannot be in the Arnica after 2 years. So you need to give now really a constitutional remedy which will also cover the trauma. Okay. So Arnica is not enough. As intercurrents, I'm considering hypericum and Baileys perennis as well as symphytum. Okay. But these are not intercurrent remedies. These are the remedies which are indicated at that time and maybe now. Provided you see, let us take hypericum. It's a remedy of nerve injuries more. In my Arnica presentation in Absolute Mathematics, we have given 2 pages the relationship of Arnica with many other remedies. So we have differentiate ledum, hypericum with Arnica, cactus grand, ranunculus bulbosum, Bailey spur with Arnica, and given our own way of thinking. It is very important that hypericum is for injuries to the nerves. Then in this case, provided the nerves are very painful, symptoms of hypericum are there, no problem you can give. Then comes, you see, Baileys perennis. It is a deeper and greater arnica in the language of C.M. Boger. What C.M. Boger says? Deeper and greater arnica, because Baileys spur corresponds to deeper organs in the body. So you see now, deeper organs like you see heart is damaged because of accident, kidney is damaged, brain is damaged. Then Baileys spur is preferred over arnica. So you can give it, no problem. In diaphragmatic cases of trauma, if one indicated drug is not covering all the totality, you can even give arnica, symphytum, arnica, hypericum alternatingly in such cases. If there is nerve injury, okay. If there is a fracture, symphytum, you can give. I do not follow in such cases a very classical method of one remedy at a time, because the condition has to be dealt with in a clinical angle. It is not a concept of classical homeopathy where you have to wait and total cure will be there. Just a condition, just a pathology, and demands of the system should be fulfilled. Okay, so you can call me at this stage anti-Hahnemannian. I have no problem. Mostly my practice is 95% Hahnemannian. But in such cases, I follow 5%. And I don't think I'm wrong. Now there is an urgency because she is reverting to alcohol to escape emotional things happening in her life. She is definitely protein energy malnutrition. She has written PEM. I think it is protein energy malnutrition during childhood. She is candid and knows it. Okay. So now she wants to consume alcohol in order to reduce the pain. So the homeopath is concerned that she should not consume alcohol and we should treat the pains with homeopathy. Good idea. We should try for this, take a totality, make a repertorization, see what kind of the pain, and really see what exactly is happening to her system, physical and mental, after shock, after accident, whether she has gone into shock. Accident doesn't mean shock. Remember, shock is something deeper. It comes as an abrupt, sudden onslaught on the system. And the system goes into a typical phase state, either mental or physical or both. Shock is deeper than only trauma. So elements from shock is a different rubric than elements from trauma. Then whether she sustained fear of accident since then. What happened to her mind? She may be frightened always. She has become anxious more. She is depressed more since then. She has lost her vigor in the life after accident. This is also possible. Because of the surgeries and the pain, she is frustrated with the pains. She has gone into a state of despair, for example. Then the rubric despair must be a part of the total. This is the idea. Recently, a very interesting case of trauma has been presented by a homeopath whose father sustained the injury. And she found that even though all this injury and brain is affected, he had same kind of the happiness and contented state of the mind. And she didn't give arnica montana, but opium with very good result. So opium is one of the remedies listed for trauma for 3 marks. It is in this way the remedy is unfolding itself on the background of the data of the patient. I had a very interesting case of injury to the chest, the pectoral muscles. There was a rib fracture, and he had very severe pain. He was kept under observation. There was mild pleural effusion. He was in hospital for 5 to 7 days. He came to me after almost 3 to 4 weeks of the accident, and his pain in the chest was persistent, very bad. I took the totality and found that it's a very good case of constriction as described in cactus gland. And in our analysis of cactus gland, it was already mentioned as one of the remedies against injuries, especially to the nerves, muscles, and pectoral muscles. With cactus gland, the patient felt better within 2 to 3 days. 1 m frequent repetition every 4 hours. Why? Because the remedy corresponded well on the background of the law of similars. Our fixity of arnica and patient's need may not go together. Law of similars speaks of homeopathy. Homeopathy is nothing but homeopathicity. Without similarity, there is no homeopathy. Quality to similarity, good correspondence, good homeopath, good result. In the harmony classes, the timing of dispensing the remedy is different. I think the timing is totally related to the patient before you. Maybe day, maybe night, the need of the patient and repetition. The art of homeopathy must be used in a contemporary way on this one. Very good. We can take this statement and make it a general statement for all the homeopaths in the world. I have no problem. Analysis. She loves her dog. Okay. Now this is very important. What exactly the patient needs now? If she loves her dog, if she loves the dog after accident much more, do you think it is something abnormal? Accident which tells upon your existence. So many of the compassionate behavior begins after accident. So this is not something uncommon. However, if it is not only love but obsessions towards dog, she is eating with dog, sleeping with dog. She cannot, remain only 5 minutes away from the dog, like mobile addicted. Then it becomes important. Consistency and intensity always play a very vital role in the selection of the rubric. So this sentence has no value unless the questioner evaluates it very well. Then prefers not to live alone. Yes, maybe due to fear after accident is bright. Very good. This is a healthy symptom. And on healthy symptoms, it is better not to give. Sometimes a homeopath must choose a line between what is healthy and what is unhealthy. And I have a very strong opinion that true sickness of an individual has to be found out. And this is the biggest search in homeopathy. The search is not pathological report. Search is not symptoms. Behind the symptoms, there is a person. There is a very mysterious phenomenon of illness which is unique in an individual. This has to be found out. So, you see, is bright has occupation that involve tattooing eyebrow. Yes, she has a business. She has a wreck her car driving while drunk. Since Sadnika, what reasoning? Yes, okay. Now you see, she was drunk and she had an accident. Who is responsible for this? She herself. Then whether she thinks that I am guilty, this is important. If she is guilty intensely, then this becomes a rubric. Second thing, although with fractures and you see alcohol accident occurred, but she takes it very lightly. She doesn't feel any conscience about this. I think this is abnormal. Then it needs a rubric. Can we take a rubric? Non-consciences. Can we take a rubric? Absence of moral impression. This is an issue. What we think common is totally based upon commonality which is available. When we think of something uncommon, then uniquely that individual presents something which is very unique, expressive in that individual. So what reasoning would I need to use to help me decide on a different remedy dispensing pattern and how different and why? Yes, take the totality afresh, sit with the patient. Her original nature, her changed nature, this accident, how it shaped her personality, what are the consequences. This is called as a post-traumatic stress disorder in psychology. This is a very big study in psychology. So you have to read this paper first from psychology, and then you will have a broad idea. And then you have many entry points in homeopathy. Remember, homeopath needs several entry points, mostly authentic, mostly consistent, and then they define the true sickness of an individual. The big problem is we are not reading. Our vision is not becoming broad. And this is a big issue. Why Arnika comes up? Because we have not thought that there are 349 remedies for different kinds of trauma. Why you only focus on Arnika? This is injustice to homeopathy. This is narrowing down the law of similars in homeopathy. Okay, there are no emotional issues, financial issues. They are getting clearer as the weeks go by. Very nice. It is healthy. So you are not to prescribe in the whole. She was in financial problem and not financial problems are over. Now your job is, in spite that the financial problems are over, if she is persistently showing you fear of poverty, there is a bank balance very good, but you have a fear of poverty, then it becomes important. As I check in on her at 15 days, I know much will be clear at follow-up after Arnika, but would the 5 cup method be better? Every method is better. Even you take the drug dry on tongue, remedy acts. If you take in water, it acts. If you take in 5 cup, it acts. If you have olfactory root, it also acts. What is important is not to root, but the remedy with clear potency and ideas of repetition. Even though she can barely walk down the stairs from her apartment and reeks of the smell of the alcohol, she takes her bulldog out for 1.3 mile walk daily. Yes, you could also infer that she is responsible because 1.3 mile with this accident and walking difficulty, she is carrying on the dog. So it means she has a good sense of responsibility. Then the remedies like Kali group, remedies like Aurum group, even a remedy like carcinosinum must be thought of. I want to give her other remedies and not wait 2 months. The concept of 2 months waiting after one dose is not classical at all. Please, please, please remove this from your mind. Like Natrum muriaticum at 10 a.m. now. I have many cases of very chronic depressive states where I am giving Netramul 10 mg daily, one dose at bedtime for months together with very good results. Classical homeopathy doesn't say that give one dose and wait for so many months. No one says this. And it is very individual. If anyone has written in that particular case, for that particular case, it was applicable, very nice. For my case, it is not applicable. I just see with repetition whether patient has any proving symptoms and whether patient is being riding himself on the path of cure. This is my follow-up. When I see no proving symptoms, path of cure is very good, patient is progressively better, I do not stop repetition so early. Discussion points. So we have discussed single remedy concept of graveyard, repetition schedule, study of mind in acute and chronic cases, then post-traumatic, and we have to define exactly shock, fear, fright, anxiety, pain, type, modalities, what is happening to the personality as a whole. So this is all about the questions which were put up to me and I have answered. Now I'm open to you about, you see, the you see, online questions. Yeah. But those who are asking me questions must be before me to ask the question, okay? I don't want only their voice, but I must see them. You can raise the hand. And our organizer will unmute you. Yeah. Yes. Any question? Nilima is here. Nilima, you are today not asking question.
Sir, Samina Kapsi is raising.
Yes.
You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, good evening, sir. Very nice section, very enlightening. Many things I got to learn. So, that sentence, your voice was breaking. I wanted to know in that intercurrent, you said that it can be any nosode, sarcode. Yeah, and then
Lack of reaction under complete repertoire is a very good rubric for intercurrent prescribing. I will show you this rubric. Very important. People are using, unfortunately, only nosode, nosode, and nosode. It is wrong use. Under generalities, you see now, lack of remedies. General. Yes. Reaction, lack of. How many remedies are there? You see now.
yeah.
Reaction, lack of remedies 2. So we have almost, you see, 20 remedies. And there is one more rubric, remedies fail to act when well indicated, 37 remedies. Here you have carbovage, here you have sulfur, here you will have tuclium X-ray, and you will find camphor. But we are so much, you see, occupied with nosodes. Of course, nosodes are very important, and I call them as a combination of the disease potential and the host energy. Angel and devil came together, and they produce the remedy. That is nosode. रावण और राम इकट्ठा आ गए मानव जाति के लिए.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Yeah.
Any other question? Yeah.
So, Vicky writes on the chat box, please mention in your follow-up the books and articles that you mentioned on Vicky's
Oh.
question section.
Okay, you will get my presentations on my website, ajitkulkarni.com. I am an author of more than 3,000 pages in English language and many other languages. I will show you. First is this my work, volume number one, 400 pages book, Homeopathy to Harmony and Totality. This is a book allotted to homeopathic philosophy. Some questions about homeopathy asked by intelligent people in the world, from allopaths especially, teaching allopaths. And then we have presented here, you see 12 chapters on mind and above, where I have explained 6 emotions and a deep study of dispositions, personality, dreams, interpersonal relationship, holding, and many other very interesting subjects. The concept is to make the vision of our reader long and broad. So this is my first independent work. Then this is a book, second volume. This is a 1000 pages book which contains 40 chapters. Here I have dealt with two subjects. First, prescribing methods in homeopathy, which contain 9 chapters. I'm a writer of objective analysis of the data through 20 points recipe. So this is my presentation where I want to present homeopathy in the most rational, scientific, totalistic way. I don't want to give importance to this method and that method because totality includes many methods together. And all these methods must become a part of a larger encompassing totality method. This is the idea. So with this idea, I have evolved 20 points where I give importance to physiology, pathology, clinical, disease, all methods in homeopathy based on location, sensation, modalities, and concomitants, mental genres, physical genres, many of the ideas in medical science, faculties, psychology, psychiatry. So all these faculties are being integrated in order to define the homeopathic concept and the management. And then there are many other articles like keynote system of prescribing. I think PQRS and our practice is a bit confusing. Why it is confusing, I have thoroughly explained in my chapter. Then this volume is, you see, allotted for materia medica study. I have given 20 group study of the materia medica, like acid group, carbon group, ammonium group, lag group, bird remedies, etc. And then my individual commentaries on many remedies, like mercury, medorinum, nozodes. Then you will find helonius, for example, and many other things. We have evolved a concept we call as a monogram, and this is a concept where the remedy has to be understood by something which is very unique to the DNA of a remedy. So how to find the DNA of a remedy? We try to work over it for years together. And so this chapter is now translated and many people in the world use this chapter. And in my prescribing analytical method, I give more value to the monogram. In monogram, we define many things like behavior of the system. We define miasm, we define the personality, we define the analogy, we define the doctrine of signature in a remedy. So it is very helpful to keep before you the points of totality. And then the remedy which is selected not only by the repertorization rubrics, but by this totality. You have to just see the rubrics in terms of the pathology, in terms of the monogram, in terms of the sensitivity, susceptibility, experience of the life, analogy, etc., etc. This is the way to approach the totalistic homeopathy in a classical way. So this is about the second volume. Third volume is under hibernation, and I hope it will be published in September end. This is a very big book of 1000 pages or more than that. It contains 40 chapters. it deals with repultarization. I have presented many remedies through many points. I mean, I have a very unique method where I express one rubric through 9 ways. So it includes verbal language of the patient sentences in my consulting chamber, then psychology, then personality, then remedy differentiation. Very important remedies which are to be differentiated as far as that rubric is concerned. My own commentaries over that particular rubric. For example, I want to explain to you cautious. So I will explain to you the cautious as a rubric through 9 components together. So homeopath will really see when to take a rubric cautious. This is the idea behind this presentation. Then there are a lot of unique commentaries of mine on several aspects of homeopathy. So all these are being presented in this third volume. So these are my independent works. Then I work since a very long time with my teacher. This is called as Absolute Homeopathic Materia Medica. It contains 150 remedies. Dr. Tarka started working over this project since 1945 until his death 2000. Then I joined him during 1980 when I was the second year of the college. So this book has gone into 7 editions now. And we have total 150 remedies being presented from Hanuman's Pura up to 2013 material of each drug being studied by me and my group over years and years. So can you imagine this book of 1250 pages costing only 600 rupees when today one page costs 2 rupees? Actually, the cost must be 2500 rupees, but B Jain is giving only for 600 rupees. This is a very big work, and every homeopath must use this book in his practice. Really, not because I am an co-author of this book, but because if you want to understand the beauty of Mater Medica, the relationships, many ideas, many clinical notes, a lot of work. This is really a very big chronic work of exhausting type, which God has given me the energy to generate. We are producing a second volume of this, which will be published after more than 3 years, because each remedy requires at least 2 to 3 months to finish in very authentic way. So I have also written over many other things. My Covidoscope book is published by Amazon, which contains 273 pages. Then I have written over Posology. Then I have more than 100 publications on homeopathy. Now we are grouping them together and publishing them as books. You can read me, you can read some of my chapters on hpathy.com, on international platform. I have more than 100 video clips on YouTube. You can study my presentations of cases, their discussions. You will get a more than 2 hours presentation free of charge on YouTube for body language and homeopathy. Body language constitutes 65% information in clinical practice. And each homeopath must know this 65% language. You cannot keep homeopathic, dynamic, complex human science within the box of only the words for a long time. Okay, so this is all of my books. You can enjoy them. You can ask for them from me. There is a phone number, and my website contains every information. We can send you the book. Enjoy my books because they are on demand since many years in many languages also.
Sir, so there is one more question on the chat, and someone wants to ask also. First, I'll allow Dr. Shaya. She has been raising the question. So you
Okay.
can go ahead and ask your question. Then we can take the chat question. And if there's no other question, we can wind up.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, sir. I'm Chaya Chitri.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one patient who is 45 years old, known case of schizophrenia since last 25 years on allopathic medication. Strong family history of schizophrenia. Mother died of schizophrenia, sister died of schizophrenia. And now he has been diagnosed with adenocarcinoma of stomach since last 1.5 years. It
Mhm.
was a perforation in the stomach. It was He was taken to home, this thing surgery. It was stitched and abdomen was closed. Then he was given chemotherapy. 12 cycle of chemotherapy he is received. At present, he is stable. Now further investigation has to be done that what stage it is, how the tumor is behaving and all. But sir, my question is that this patient has extreme expression at physical level as well as mental level. Like physically, he's got cancer, mentally he's got
Mhm.
schizophrenia. So in this case, sir, how do we explain the miasmatic activity? How
Very
do
good.
we understand miasm and how should we tackle the miasmatic activity?
Good. Now see, our concept to think mind and body are separate is very wrong. Our problems are more deep because we don't understand the inseparability between mind and body. When you say the word totality, totality cannot be fragmented. You know, there is a universal principle. Everything is connected to everything. Now, in this case, a schizophrenia, because of syphilitic miasm, through oncogen, through family history, was a part as a genetic unfolding of the case at the mind level, at the behavior level, at the thought level, at the feeling level. Then comes, you see, another strong miasmatic syphilitic disease of the cancer as a concomitant physical pathology. So the system, the biological system is under the influence of the syphilitic miasm. This is the case now. Now, we want a remedy which has affinity for breast, which has affinity for the mind. This is our search. Our search begins according to affinity, according to localities, according to pathologies. I had such a case which I have reported in my carbon chapter, carbon remedy, and this is a case of carboanimalis. She had depression and then she developed fibroadenoma, malignant, and she was helped by carboanimalis. There was a severe constant brooding. Her husband and herself were at discord, and she was constantly brooding. And when I studied the case, I found that carboanimalis had brooding for 3 months. So the remedy covered everything in totality as an essence, and the remedy helped the case. In this case of you are describing, you have to find this totality, these connections very well. Then the essence is known to you. And for finding the essence now, you have to be very carefully note down the details of the case. Take a very good history, document the very good history, then process the data in a very good manner without remedy in the mind. Then go ahead, unprejudiced. Study deeply. Today's homeopaths take a good case, but they spend very little time in data processing. 1.5 hours case is taken, and within 5 minutes the remedy is given. This is not good. At least data processing requires 15 minutes to half an hour. I will tell you, don't do this mistake. So in your case, what is needed is a very synthetic approach. Then there is a golden rule told by our predecessors. Physical concomitants in a mental case and mental concomitants in a physical case are very important to follow them. Now, if the tumor is hard and this schizophrenic patient has become emotionally blunt and he's a little bit hard and cruel. What is the central theme of the case? Hard. Do you know this is a rubric? No, hard. This becomes an essence. Even in delusions in schizophrenia cases, focus upon those delusions which are very frequent. and central delusions. Central means they have dictating conditions for a human being. So they dictate and the person behaves according to the delusions. It happens no in our life. So these
Mm-hmm.
central intense delusions combined with the pathology, characters of the pathology, then time modality, periodicity, then other modalities, depleting factor, depressing factors, warm, chilly, all these will make a good totality. Then prescribe. In such cases, you can prescribe in two ways. First, LM scale is the best to deal with the pathology and to deal also with the mind. In such cases, go beyond LM6, daily 2-3 times repetition over a month together. Because these are strong cases, strong
Mm-hmm.
pathological cases, mind and body. So repeat daily, very good results. Then also try to understand the miasm behind it. It could be syphilitic miasm, then syphilinum if the patient is warm-blooded. If the patient is, you see, chilly and syphilitic, think of mercury as an intercurrent. If the patient has tubercular miasm, in schizophrenia, there may be sometimes very, you see, behavior which is a very strong, aggressive, unpredictable, ugly. Then think of tuberculinum. So it is in this way you have to see how you can go ahead. I had a psychosexual disorder patient with schizophrenia. So the remedy was in a warm-blooded patient, directly medorinum as an intercurrent. And his constitutional remedy in schizophrenia was cannabis indica with very good results. We even were able to stop his antipsychotic remedies. Remember, it is possible to treat these cases and at least to make them maintain. Of course, there is a quality of life that is hampered, but you can maintain them very well with homeopathy with no side effects of psychotropic, antipsychotic drugs in allopathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Then I have questions, you see.
Sir, one more question is there.
Yes.
Dr. Neelam asking, can you share general guideline to treat cases of cystic fibrosis?
Yes, very good. You know, when I started writing a book on, you see, COVID-19, I found that in our repertoire there is no rubric fibrosis. Then I made this rubric. Even I can share this rubric on our platform. How I prepare the rubric? First, I went into heavy metals who cause under toxicology fibrosis. This is point number one. Point number second, I tried to see the miasmatic understanding of the remedies, how they are approaching. Let us take, for example, tuberculinum as a remedy. You know, tuberculinum is a remedy which has everything as far as the inflammation is concerned. It goes from congestion onwards up to fibrosis. Then fibrosis came up. Let us take acidum floricum. It's a remedy of fibrosis. Let us take all the remedies listed under, you will find wound healing with cicatrices. What is cicatrices basically? Even though it is a hypertrophy of the scar tissue, keloid, they are fibrous tissues which are used by the body, maybe a proud flesh. Okay. But the whole purpose is fibrosis. So I made this rubric, and many people are using this rubric in clinical practice also. So I think such rubrics became a pathological rubric for treatment of cystic fibrosis. And you know, cystic fibrosis is a very typical disease, progressive disease, where fibrosis starts occurring. If it occurs in lungs, if it occurs in pancreas, you see what happens to the patient. Yeah. So we can treat such cases very well, and we can develop our own way of practice by generating new rubrics also. Okay, let us take, for example, you see toxicology of heavy metals. All heavy metals have toxicological pathology of fibrosis. Do you know this? And under syphilinum, we have given the pathological correlation between heavy metals poisoning and syphilinum. This is very interesting. So syphilinum, kaliiodum, mercury, silica, they are all 5 fibrosis. You know, silicosis, mild menials like you see tuberculosis. So you will find silicosis is nothing but a way of understanding how the body tries to heal itself through the fibrosis. So silica in one way or the other, either as a independent remedy or in association with all other cations, become very important for fibrosis. Okay? Yes.
Sir, so we have a last question, if you allow me to read it. Dr. Sandhya is asking, sir, can we tackle lipoma case with homeopathy? Is it given LM potency?
You see, if you open the repertoire, if you complete repertoire, you will find 41 remedies have been listed under lipoma. Personally, I think lipomas don't need treatment because this is just accumulation of the fat tissues and they do not grow infinitely. They have certain growth and then stop, maybe in other parts of the body. So one tumor giant of lipoma is not possible. If at all they cause pressure symptoms over the nerves, I understand they must be treated. So lipomas, even though they are present on the body, and if the quality of life is not maintained, hampered at all, I advise the patient it is not necessary to treat it. Second thing, my results with lipoma is not very good. I personally will confess this. Maybe I'm wrong in selection of the rubric. But even after you see trying to fish out a good remedy, success rate with lipoma is not very good. Third thing, it doesn't mean that you should depend on one homeopath who's telling you his results are not good. One homeopath doesn't decide anything in homeopathy. You should try your best. I am also trying in some cases. In 2 cases, my results with lipoma are very good. One was a case of lepis alba, which I repeated daily for months together. And lipoma regressed. And it has remained from something like 5 6 centimeter to hardly half centimeter. So such cases are also there. But very promising results in lipoma are not there. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir. So we are, I think, done with the questions. I thank you from everyone's behalf to answer our queries. And I'm grateful that you were there on Homeopathy Musings. And I wish you come often on our platform. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing time
On
today.
best.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Good night. Good night.
Yeah. Good night.